Well, poor old Boris has got the fucking coronavirus. The headline on the New York Times is, Boris Johnson, who long resisted social distancing, is now isolating himself, but he said he would continue to lead the country's response to the pandemic. He didn't long resist it. They're making out again as if he's got some ideological slant here. He didn't long resist social distancing. It's not right-wing or Trumpian to resist social distancing. He listened to the healthcare professionals and they told him, there's no need to do that. Herd immunity might be a better idea. And he said that initially, and then when they said it wasn't a good idea, he changed his mind and went with that. I don't know why they have to put a slant on everything. Boris Johnson knows he isn't a fucking Surgeon General. If Boris Johnson's wife needed her appendix removing, Boris Johnson wouldn't dust the cake crumbs off the kitchen table, pull out a pitchfork and a fucking salami slicer and do his best. He wouldn't eviscerate her in his living room and then gnaw it out of her fucking midriff. He'd send her to the hospital. He didn't long resist anything. He followed medical advice, like everyone who's got half a brain fucking would. It says, for weeks Boris Johnson was a defiant holdout among Western leaders. Fuck off. On Friday, become the first of those leaders not to have contracted the disease. They can't resist it, they're just the tone of that opening paragraph. He was a defiant holdout. He was listening to the fucking Surgeon General. They just love it, like it's karma. Get in. It's all they can do without dancing a jig on a hole they've dug for him already. 2 other senior officials said they were infected. Yep, that's Prince Charles and they haven't mentioned him here, but it was the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, it was. It said, Britain faces the alarming prospect of having to confront its greatest crisis since World War II. Fucking calm down. Mr Johnson insisted he would not relinquish his duties. In a remarkable 2-minute video posted on Twitter, he used his own case as a sort of teachable moment for the country, appealing to people to work from home and comply with the more drastic social distancing measures he put in place last Monday. Let's watch his video.
Hi folks, I want to bring you up to speed with something that's happening today, which is that I've developed mild symptoms of the coronavirus, that's to say a temperature and a persistent cough. And on the advice of the chief medical officer, I've taken a test that has come out positive. So I am working from home, I'm self-isolating, and that's entirely the right thing to do. But be in no doubt that I can continue, thanks to the wizardry of modern technology, to communicate with all my top team to lead the national fight back against coronavirus. And I want to thank everybody who's involved. I want to thank, of course, above all, our amazing NHS staff. It was very moving last night to join in that national clap for the NHS. But it's not just the NHS, it's our police, our social care workers, teachers, everybody who works in schools, the DWP staff. An amazing national effort by the public services, but also by every member of the British public who's volunteering. Incredible response. 600,000 people have volunteered to take part in a great national effort to protect people from the consequences of coronavirus. I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who's working to keep our country going through this epidemic. And we will get through it. And the way we're going to get through it is, of course, by applying the measures that you'll have heard so much about. And the more effectively we all comply with those measures, the faster our country will come through this epidemic and the faster we'll bounce back. So thank you to everybody who's doing what I'm doing, working from home to stop the spread of the virus from household to household. That's the way we're going to win. We're going to beat it, and we're going to beat it together. Stay at home, protect the NHS, and save lives.
Nothing at all wrong with that. Nothing. Perfectly reasonable. You would think you'd have to struggle to find people who'd complain about that. Well, let's go and have a look, shall we? Let's wade into the pestilent fucking morass that is Twitter. It really is awful, Twitter. I do try to hardly ever go on there. Look at the comments. First thing Thomas Brownlee has to say, how did you get tested when thousands can't? He's the fucking Prime Minister, you stupid cunt. The Prime Minister. How did you get tested? He's the fucking Prime Minister. He's the leader of the entire country. Fuck me. Dr. Thomas. What a cunt. Because he's our Prime Minister, you plank. Yep. Well done, Mike. Look, tested positive for being an irresponsible dickhead too, lol. Lana, we're gonna have a party when Boris Johnson dies. Fuck me. Oh, and she's a scouser, a female scouser. She's had more nuts in her mouth than a fucking hibernating squirrel. Fucking scousers. The worst thing about scousers is well, again, not all scousers. I know plenty of sound scousers, but the fucking lefty ones complain more than any cunt in the world, and then as soon as anyone's on the other side of the fence, they're fucking the most vitriolic. So much for the compassionate fucking left, eh, Lana? Thieving, bin-dipping bastard. Look, lol, Tories are so triggered. This makes me laugh as well. The desperate attempts for the lefties to, appropriate the term triggered or snowflake. Have you noticed? You disagree with them on anything and they go, lol, triggered, or haha, snowflake. The whole reason they started using those terms is because they use them themselves in all these fucking university speeches saying, oh, you've got to be careful that you don't trigger people. And then they demanded the safe spaces and said we have to have a safe space. So that's why you're called triggered snowflakes. If you piss off a conservative, he doesn't say, I have been triggered, I need to go to a safe space. No, he doesn't. I don't need a safe space. If some of these cunts were sat across from me and talked to me in real life like they talk to you on the internet, they'd need a fucking safe space. Because I'd give them so many fucking lefts that beg me for a right. That's why Twitter's so bad, isn't it? Nobody's this much of a cunt when you're in the pub. Nobody is. People are actually quite sound in the pub. If you have an argument with someone about politics in the pub, they're always sound. I've had loads of good, high-stakes arguments in the pub. I'm quite a chatty fella, as you can imagine, and I like having an argument about politics. People are pretty sound, we'll disagree quite vehemently, but in the end you go, fuck it, let's talk about something else. And you sit and have your pint and that's it. It's only in cyberspace where people are just absolute fucking scum. It's why road rage is so common. When you're in your car, you've got this bubble around you and it does affect you psychologically, makes you feel protected. And that's why people are more aggressive when they're on the roads than they are in real life. And it's definitely why people in cyberspace are just fucking awful. I'm sure Thomas Brownlee wouldn't be an absolute cunt in real life if I sat across him in the pub. Or even fucking Lana, the vitriolic scouse cunt. I'm sure if she was in a bar and we were talking politics, she'd be like, oh, I love Corbyn. And I'd say, I think he's a fucking dickhead. But we'd probably get on quite well. Cyberspace just brings out the absolute worst in fucking people. Look, Shamil. Will you publicly apologise for the herd immunity strategy now? Probably wasn't his strategy. What do you think? He does everything. Same with Trump. Have a go at him for everything. Do you honestly think the president does everything? He's just the face of the fucking government. It's like if something to do with logistics comes up, he'll probably defer to his economic advisor. And if something to do with medicine comes up, he'll defer to his, health secretary or what have you. The cunt isn't to be blamed for the herd immunity strategy. It's not like he sat in a room with 50 doctors, nurses, surgeons and healthcare professionals and went, all right, losers, this is what we're going to fucking do. And all 50 of them were going, no, herd immunity won't work. It's a terrible idea. And he was like, fuck off, losers. I worked for a newspaper and I was the mayor for a bit. I know what's what. It's not what happens, Shamil, you clueless cunt. Look, Boris Johnson is dying from COVID-19. Share this meme to help him die faster. That's not a meme. That's just a shit sentence written on a picture of Boris Johnson. There's no wit or intellect or effort gone into it. So you, Jem, are what I would politely call a monumental thunder cunt. Look, a trans lesbian. Oh, good luck getting a lesbian fucking girlfriend. Because funny old thing, most lesers aren't massively into blokes, and I guarantee a significant number of them think, fuck off, weirdo, when you start waving your 7-inch clitoris around. Fuck me. How did you get tested before? Because he's the leader of the entire fucking country. That's why. I wouldn't be confused if he beat me to the front of the fucking testing queue. You fucking moron. Make China pay again. Yeah. Justice warrior. I like him. People of Taiwan are being nice. Shame the fucking British can't manage it. The king of virus? Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you have the coronavirus. Mild symptoms and tested positive. How the fuck did you... Be silent, retard. Go back to playing with your fucking building blocks. Mad how you got tested. Fuck off, Sarah. Sarah, you are fucking rats. You look like you drew your face on with a fucking marker pen. You honking individual. Ha ha, you deserve it. Let's stop going through that. Best of all, Donald Tusk. Easier and faster access to tests for those in power is a failed test of decency and democracy. As if Donald Tusk and all them fucking cunts in the EU haven't been getting tested. I mean, these are the oligarchs who earn 200 grand a year and go to champagne dinners every day. And he's got the brass neck to say shit like that. It's almost funny. Anyway, instead of going over all these hypocritical, mentally disturbed lefty bastards, I just want to point one thing out. As I did to this fucker. If anyone doesn't know, there's a fantastic group called My Favourite F Word is Feminism on Facebook. And it is comedy gold. If you want an easy laugh, I heartily recommend joining and laughing your fucking tits off at some of the insane shit these retards fucking spew out into cyberspace. But just a quick point. So I went on here, obviously to do a bit of good-natured trolling, and said, ladies and gents, roll up, see the comments from the caring and tolerant left. This is why you are so unpopular, ladies, because everyone knows that if you got the merest whiff of power, the gulags would be rammed. And the fucking would be. And here's the 2 points I want you to take away from this video. 1, the caring and tolerant left are not caring and tolerant, and tens of millions of them appear to be ready to dance a jig on the poor cunt's grave. Why should we care about Boris? He put others' lives in danger, and now his actions led to him getting infected. Why should we care about Boris? And I said, you should care because he's merely a centre-right politician that you don't like. I said, it's almost like you're an awful fucking person and you don't even know it. And then this daft cunt, oh, fuck off, he's horrible. I was like, yeah, thanks for proving me right, cheers, mate. But this is the point I wanted to make. Point 2. Boris Johnson, and this is The Guardian, it's not some right-wing fucking rag. Boris Johnson is not right-wing. Boris Johnson never has been. Boris Johnson was the Mayor of London for 10 years, the most tolerant liberal city in the whole of the UK. And he ran it fine. He's not homophobic, he's not racist, he's not sexist. He called for an immigration amnesty, he's passed legislation for climate change. Nothing about him is right-wing. But because there was an election on, Labour smeared him as like a right-winger. And he isn't, and there's nothing about him that's particularly right-wing. But they're still partying on Twitter. There's a full page of it. Partying on Twitter, praying for his death. So if all this fucking vitriol isn't proof positive that the likes of Owen Jones and AOC and Taliba Rashid and Afua Hirsch and all the famous lefties, if you don't think they'd throw you in a fucking gulag or a salt mine and lock the fucking and eat the key, you've got another thing coming, because they despise you. They think you are fucking evil. Disagree with them in any way, shape or form, and you are persona non grata. You don't just have a disagreement, you're evil, you're despicable, and you deserve anything to do to you. And this is why I've come down on the side of the right rather than the left in all these cases lately. I've never considered myself to be particularly right-wing, but these people are fucked up, and if they had a whiff of power, they'd be happy to put 30 million people in Britain. 60% of the country, 70% of the country doesn't agree with these people. So they'd all be in the salt mine, because they're convinced that anyone who disagrees with them is despicable. Be very wary of these people, because they would fucking lock you up and throw the key away. I'll leave that story for you to read, I'll put a link in the comments. It's a good read. Boris Johnson's centrist, he's centre-left even, he's got many liberal tendencies. Very few of his politics are in direct opposition to the far left. And they utterly fucking despise him. They loathe the cunt. So if they're praying for his death, how do you think they'd act if they were in power? Think they'd care about ordinary people who disagree with them? I fucking think not. No wonder it always ends in the fucking graveyard when these barmy cunts get in charge. Die, hope you die. Karma, finally, yes. Fucking bring it on. This is why you're never going to win an election. Because you're all a bunch of despicable cunts and everyone with an IQ above about 60 fucking knows it. Anyway, that's me done. Get well soon, Boris.